Surprise, motherfucker!
Mindseye came out last year, a game I was pretty hyped for. The trailers look cool, and since none other than Leslie Benzies, former top executive at Rockstar Games, was the driving force behind this game, it promised to be a massive GTA competitor. But when the game released, and many review outlets complained about the lack of review copies, plus some other controversy, there were more than enough red flags for me. And indeed, it wasn't great judging by the reviews. But me would not be me if I didn't decide for myself whether this was really that bad. So I eventually got to work on it, and because there have been the necessary patches and updates, I am going to tell you right now whether Mindseye does deserve a chance or not.
Well, gentlemen, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
In Mindseye you play as Jacob Diaz, an ex-elite soldier who is no longer in service after a failed mission and is therefore technically a veteran. During that mission, the entire squad of Jacob was wiped out, except for Jacob himself, due to an unknown artifact that was tapped into. However, he does have some sort of dodgy chip in his neck, but due to amnesia Jacob no longer remembers the details. Jacob needs to get his life back on track, and he does so by going to Red Rock City.
Welcome to Red Rock.
A desert city clearly based on Las Vegas. But besides the many casinos, this hyper-modern city is also home to a mega corporation named Silva Corporation, specializing in AI-driven robotics that can also be deployed for war purposes. And a friend of Jacob works there, and through him you get a job as some sort of jack of all trades, but primarily in the role of security for the company. Robots that have gone rogue or protecting high-ranking officials, that is what you have to do. However, it soon becomes apparent that this company holds the key to the truth regarding the failed mission and the chip in your neck, and that Jacob is primarily looking for answers through a former scientist at Silva Corp named Hunter Morrison. But also other evil factions are also seeking for those same answers, but to use them in their own advantage. And so you must not only search for the truth but also take on this evil corporation named Red Sands. It is a story that is quite decent in itself, but it is the way that it is told that degrades it to something very mediocre. There are a few somewhat outstanding characters, but those are overly stereotypical as if they were almost created by AI, and are also utterly cringeworthy.
I know it's terribly cringeworthy.
For instance, there is this hacker girl named Charlie who is part of Red Sands but joins you. And if you would ask ChatGPT right now for a character model for a hacker girl in a video game, you will probably get this Watch Dogs clone. Hunter Morrison himself is also overly goofy and mysteriously quirky, but it all just turns out very, very badly. Add the mediocre writing to that and you quickly come to the conclusion that you are better off taking this story as an FYI only and not attaching too much value to it. And that's a shame, because Mindseye really does try to create an interesting world with political power, corporations, the world itself and its design, but it doesn't manage to succeed. And especially with this ending, which I don't necessarily want to spoil, but believe me, it's bad.
It's bad? It's very bad.
But then, is the gameplay actually any fun? For the first few hours it was pretty decent. But the flaws show pretty quickly after those first hours, and the gameplay descends into mediocrity at best. The open world is essentially nothing more than a backdrop to tell a super linear story, and that doesn't have to be a disaster, but the story isn't cool and the gameplay isn't well executed. Mafia games do this too, but they still give you some sort of freedom, albeit limited. Here you cannot even get into a different car if you wanted to. And as a result, missions sometimes fail automatically purely because you can't steal a new car. They also try to trigger things during missions in that open world, but because the timelines are so tight, it sometimes feels completely off. For example, here, where there are supposed to be robots on your path, but you don't actually encounter them until quite a bit later.
There seem to be robots out here on the track. I assume this isn't where they're supposed to be?
2 hours later.
These bots have managed to override that system.
Oh, there they are.
But the ultimate highlight of this game's linearity is undoubtedly that you can end up out of mission bounds even if you just follow the GPS. The driving is pretty much the same as in the Saints Row reboot. The cars feel as if they were glued to the roads, and the steering isn't very responsive, meaning it never really feels good. The shooting action is everything but special, but the weapons don't feel very cool, and the AI in particular is the turd on top of this shit cake. They run around the battlefield like headless chickens and serve as cannon fodder. But even outside of the shooting action, the AI is excruciatingly bad. Sometimes they just do absolutely nothing. And during car chases, the pursuers don't even try to avoid anything, turning it into pure chaos.
Keep driving. We gotta lose them.
Good luck, everybody else!
And the AI driving the car that you are in also drives incredibly clumsy, even when the pursuers have been shaken off already. Fortunately, you can ram trucks off the road as if they were made of cardboard.
I know who you are, Carrie Rigby.
But other things you have to do in the gameplay are just not quite right either. Stealth, for example, is incredibly clunky.
Enforcing the law.
Has it gone? Okay, let's do this one more time.
Or fucking boring quicktime events, for instance when performing CPR.
First I was afraid, I was petrified.
Or this stupid activity that also triggered an achievement that spoils what will happen next.
You're so dumb!
No, it should be clear, you don't play this game for the gameplay either. It is all mediocre and nothing stands out in a good way.
Oh my god, that's annoying.
But is the game successful in terms of presentation then? Well, not entirely, but the presentation is actually the best aspect of this game, although there are the necessary flaws. Graphically, it is all reasonably okay, and the voice acting isn't terrible either, but it is nowhere truly amazing. The animations of both Jacob and the NPCs are quite stiff. Here, for example, I am aiming a weapon downwards, but even though I do hit enemies below me, the barrel of the gun just sticks straight ahead, purely because the animation doesn't seem to be there. And I'm no physicist, but I am pretty sure that this is not how it works. The music is neglectable, although that famous tune is one that stands out, were it not for the fact that it can be heard during every mission fail and then it becomes downright annoying. Performance-wise, it is all pretty fine. I encountered relatively few strange things and I didn't experience any crashes or performance drops, but despite that, the presentation doesn't leave the lingering feeling that this is anything special. You might have already seen it in my top 5 disappointments of 2025 video, but Mindseye is, even now, still not worth the effort. The game isn't really so bad that it deserves a 2 or a 3, but this is absolutely not a passing grade either. I give Mindseye a 5. I really wanted to like it, but this is just too mediocre in too many aspects, and any aspect that isn't mediocre is bad.
Well, that was clear.
And with that, we come to the end of this review. What did you think of Mindseye? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, that helps my channel immensely. And for live gameplay you can check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/gameplayofj, and don't forget to follow me there too. For more content, check the suggestions on the left or the channel on the right. And for now, see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.